Hey there, fellow loungers. This is Scott, and I'm just coming to you with one last very quick public service announcement. I don't really enjoy doing the introductory episodes that I've been trying to put in front of each of the novels that I've read so far. I don't love doing research. I don't love trying to come up with some sort of a script to provide information for you about authors and novels. And it's so easy for you to do any of that yourself if you're interested. Wikipedia is a great resource, and there are literally millions of other options out there on the interwebs that you can quickly access with a couple of clicks. And I don't feel like there's any point in me providing any of that information. I'm just here to read these books. That's what I really want to do. I don't enjoy doing a bunch of research. I've done more than I can stand to do of that over my decades of education and learning and everything else. And I'm doing this for fun, so I don't want to do that. So I'm not going to. I'm just going to read these novels. I will let you know, though, that I have expanded my scope a little bit. Initially, when I started doing this podcast, I thought that I would focus primarily on the 19th century and what little bit of the 20th century is available to me through public domain. But I also realized that there are some really amazing works that I do want to get to that were written before the beginning of the 1800s. If, for example, I want to get into Shakespeare, which I definitely want to do, I've got to go pre 1800s because he was writing 200 years before the 1800s even started. So, I'm not going to go into a lot of pre 19th century stuff, but for things like Shakespeare, Don Quixote, those sorts of masterworks, foundational works, I'm going to make an exception. And since I'm getting into Shakespeare, I'm really going to go for it. I've got 12 or 14 different things lined up. And because those are short, and they're in a completely different format. They're either plays or I'm also looking into reading the sonnets as well. Those are not traditional novel formats. So I think that'll kind of change things up a little bit. They're shorter, they're exciting, they're very dramatic, they're fun to read, and they're not traditional long novels. So, my plan is to sprinkle a bunch of those sorts of things throughout as we go, while I continue to focus primarily on the longer, more classic novels from the 19th and 20th century. I've got a lot of translations coming up in the next few novels. I just read Notes from Underground, which is a Russian novel, so obviously that requires a translation. I'm going to be reading the Metamorphosis next, which is written in German, although Kafka is Czech himself. He wrote in German, so that requires a translation. I am going to read after that Hamlet, which will be a short kind of gut punch for all of us, and that'll be fun. And then after that, I'm planning on starting the longest novel ever written, which is a French novel by Marcel Proust. And so going forward, I'm not going to be doing novel introductions, but I might here and there just throw out a little bit of information at the very beginning of the first episode for a novel if I think there's something that I need to address, which I will do when I do Hamlet, because it's in a play format. And that's not what I'm used to here. It's not something that I've done on this podcast before. So I'll need to talk about how I'm going to do that a little bit. But that'll just be 1 or 2 minutes at the beginning of the first actual episode. There will not be a separate episode before that. And I'll need to do a similar thing for the Proust novel. If you know anything about Proust's masterwork, In Search of Lost Time, you know that I need to talk about it a little bit before I start. So I'll do that. But with a lot of the other novels, like with the Metamorphosis, I won't need to do that. I'll just start the novel. I'll explain, who the translator is, if there is a translator. I'll mention the author, of course, and the date of publishing, but other than that, I'll just get right into the novel and not waste your time or mine. Because really, that's why I'm here, because these novels are amazing, and frankly, I'm not. So there's nothing I can say that's going to be amazing. That's what the novels do. So that's it. That's all I've got to say, and this will probably be one of the very last separate little episodes that I produce. Everything else will be episodes that include actual real content with maybe a note or two from me at the beginning. All right, so we'll be starting the Metamorphosis here in just a couple of days. Bye bye.